This is Satyendra Nath Bose. Thanks to the power of this mind, humanity could discover hidden secrets of the universe. Through these penetrating eyes, science could see unexpected logics in the organization of matter. He was born at the margins of scientific production, but by means of his creativity, intelligence, and courage, secured a position among the most outstanding names of his time. Yes, Satyendra devoted himself to science, more specifically to physics, even more specifically to quantum physics. On the first day of the year 1894, Satyendra was born in the city of Calcutta in India. The city is located in the region of Bengal. His parents belonged to the middle class of the Bengali society. After Satyendra's birth, they would have 6 other children, all of them girls. The young Satyendra attended the normal school, then the Hindu school. Since the first years, he impressed his teachers with an outstanding performance, especially in mathematics. For example, in a certain mathematics examination for which the best mark was 100, his teacher decided to give him 110. Very smoothly, he attended the college and joined the university studies, completing the basic degree in 1913. Before completing the master's degree, he got married in 1914. He would have 9 children, 2 of whom would die in early childhood. A great upheaval in Satyendra's life would take place in 1916. This is when he initially came across the theory of relativity. This discovery opened new philosophical and scientific avenues to Satyendra's brilliant mind. In 1917, already as a lecturer of the Calcutta University where he taught physics and applied mathematics, Satyendra began his own explorations into relativity by running experiments and making sophisticated calculations. So intense was his excitement with the possibilities offered by the theory that he decided to send a letter to its creator asking for permission to prepare an English translation. In 1919, Satyendra published, in collaboration with his colleague Meghnad, the book named The Principle of Relativity. This was the world's first translation of relativity from German into English. In the following years, Satyendra continued to explore relativity, which was rapidly gaining popularity and recognition among physicists. Somehow, Satyendra could look at relativity from a very innovative angle, investigating aspects that nobody else was able to see. Eventually, these investigations would enable a remarkable scientific breakthrough. In 1921, Satyendra became reader in physics at the University of Dhaka. His investigations and thoughts were at an advanced stage, but would take 2 years more to reach a state of maturation. At that time, physicists explained the distribution of energy inside atoms by using the equation that German scientist Max Planck had proposed in 1905. This equation is formed of two factors. The first factor is in line with classical physical theories and with secular scientific traditions. The second factor is aimed to account for the new physical phenomena explored by quantum physics. However, the equation failed to completely explain the behavior of photons, the small particles that compose light. In order to solve this weakness, several scientists were trying to fix the second factor of the equation, proposing different mathematical approaches. But none of these solutions was strong and convincing enough. Thanks to his investigations, Satyendra concluded that it was necessary to fix not only the second factor, but also the first one. In other words, he was claiming that quantum mechanics had to completely abandon the old traditions of classical physics and embrace a completely new way of thinking. He explained that photons cannot be thought of as small bullets flying in the air. Rather, photons are diffuse, cannot be precisely located, and mingle together in their trajectory. In order for photons to be accurately described, a new kind of statistics proposed by Satyendra was necessary. He was creating a new scientific method which would become known as quantum statistics. Aware of the scientific scope of his findings, Satyendra prepared a paper that was submitted to an English journal. However, the paper was rejected. Satyendra was then facing a dilemma. His ideas deserved to be published, but were so innovative and complex that most people could simply not understand them. But there was a man who would be able to understand this new way of thinking. This man, Albert Einstein, the creator of the theory of relativity. In 1924, Satyendra sent a letter to Einstein. As an attachment, he sent his rejected paper. From India to Germany traveled the letter that would change the destiny of modern science. Albert Einstein could still remember the young Indian scientist who years before had asked for permission to translate his German texts. When he read Satyendra's paper, there were no doubts. Immediately, a distant communication was established between two minds that operated at the same level, pushing the boundaries of modern physics. Einstein was so impressed that he decided to translate the paper from English to German himself. He made the translation be published in the prestigious journal Zeitschrift für Physik. The publication contains an initial footnote written by Einstein. There, the German scientist declares that for him, Satyendra's method was very useful and that he would apply it to the study of gases. That footnote was the starting point for the quantum theory of gases. In the same year of 1924, Satyendra took a boat and traveled to Europe. His initial destination was Paris. He wished to work in the famous laboratory led by Madame Curie. However, she refused the young Indian scientist because his mastery of the French language was not sufficient. For 6 months, Satyendra worked in the laboratory of Maurice de Broglie, conducting studies on X-ray crystallography. With the improvement of his French, he once again tried to be admitted into Madame Curie's laboratory, and this time was successful. For another 6 months, he worked at the prestigious Radium Institute of Paris. In 1925, Satyendra left France and headed to Germany, where he would finally have a face-to-face meeting with Albert Einstein. In Berlin, Satyendra Bose met not only Einstein, but other key scientists, including the ones who were developing the basic principles of quantum mechanics, like Niels Bohr and Paul Dirac. His studies showed that when photons and subatomic particles are subjected to very low temperatures, they lose their identity to become one single condensate. This state of matter is now called the Bose-Einstein condensate, because both the Indian and the German physicists contributed to the discovery of its properties. Satyendra carried on developing his prodigious calculations. He predicted the existence of particles more fundamental than photons, neutrons, and electrons, even though at that time scientific devices were not precise enough to actually prove the existence of such basic particles. In 1926, Satyendra returned to India. He became professor of physics at the University of Dhaka. However, in India he did not have the same kinds of sophisticated equipment he had used in France and Germany. In order to solve this limitation, he began to design and make his own scientific equipment, so it was possible to continue his investigations. In this way, he could set up a whole laboratory for X-ray crystallography. In 1944, he became president of the Indian National Science Congress. In 1947, India gained its independence from the United Kingdom. The national territory was separated into 2 states, India and Pakistan. The city where Satyendra was working, Dhaka, would be part of Pakistan. For this reason, he decided to return to the University of Calcutta, being admitted as professor of physics. In 1948, he helped create the Bhangya Vigyan Parishad, an institution for the dissemination of basic scientific knowledge among ordinary citizens by using their native dialects, according to the explanation given by Satyendra himself.
তখন সবে আমরা স্বাধীন হয়েছি, কাজেই আমরা ভেবেছিলাম দেশের মধ্যে বিজ্ঞানের কথা প্রচার করা, দেশকে বিজ্ঞানের যে সমস্ত অবদান আছে সেসব জানানো, যাতে প্রতিদিনের কাজে তারা বিজ্ঞানের যা কলকারখানার বিষয়েতে তাদের প্রয়োজনীয়তা বুঝে নিজেদের কাজে লাগাতে পারে, এই রকমভাবে তাদের শিক্ষা দীক্ষার আয়োজন করা।
In the 1950s and 60s, already recognized as a key physicist, Satyendra traveled to many countries, presenting his studies and his penetrating ideas. In 1956, Satyendra retired from Calcutta University and became Vice-Chancellor of the Visva Bharati University. In the following years, he became supporter or president of several scientific institutions in India, many of which he helped create. In 1958, in recognition of his outstanding achievements, he was elected Fellow of the Royal Society of London. His 80th birthday deserved a huge celebration, with the participation of celebrities, academics, students and children. In the same year of 1974, India received the news of Satyendra's death. He always had a very simple lifestyle, being surrounded by friends and relatives. In addition to physics and mathematics, he was interested in chemistry, engineering, anthropology, painting, literature, and music. He played an Indian musical instrument called Ezraj. He always claimed that scientific knowledge should be taught in the language of ordinary citizens, that scientists should be interested in the national life, and that students should be encouraged to produce their own scientific materials. Above all, he defended that science should be practiced with passion and creativity. In 2012, at the Hadron Large Collider, a new type of subatomic particle was observed. This is the particle that Satyendra Bose's mathematics had predicted in the 1920s. The particle could only be named after the Indian scientist, so it received the name boson. 38 years after his death, Satyendra was still helping science to unravel mysterious aspects of the universe. This is the Nagi. Nagi is the female of a creature called Naga. Nagas have a human body mixed with the body of a snake. The result of this combination is very impressive and curious. However, it's very difficult to observe Nagas, as they live in a hidden mysterious world and only visit our human world occasionally. Nagas are creatures that often appear in tales of southern and southeastern Asia. In fact, Naga is a Sanskrit word whose meaning is snake. Nagas can assume three forms. First, they can simply take the form of a snake. In this case, they can have many heads. Second, they can appear as people having a snake on their head or neck. Finally, they can take the most impressive form, being half human, half snake. In some stories, Nagas are depicted as malevolent, poisonous, and dangerous beings. In the Hindu and Buddhist traditions, however, they are seen as benevolent and protective. Some Hindu deities are depicted as being protected by Nagas or adorned with Nagas. These human snake creatures are guardians of hidden secrets. According to the Hindu tradition, there was a period when Nagas were multiplying too quickly. The god Brahma then decided to translocate them to the underworld. Since that moment, Nagas live in the Nagaloka, an underground realm full of gems, gold, and treasures. In this way, they have access to riches and visions that cannot be accessed by ordinary human beings. Like dragons, Nagas are guardians of mysterious treasures. For this reason, Nagas are said to live in places of difficult access. For example, in Thailand, it's said that they live in deep caves. When a Naga is female, she is called Nagi. Every Nagi is strikingly beautiful, enchanting people who look at them. In addition to keeping the most amazing secrets, the Nagi masters the skills of creation, bringing about great achievements when nothing can be expected. For this reason, the Nagi is associated with water, including lakes, seas, and rivers. In Laos, the Nagi assumes the form of a giant water serpent. In Thailand, she is said to control the rains. In Philippines, it's known that the Nagi causes not only rains but also eclipses and earthquakes. In India, the Nagi is a peaceful nature spirit that brings rain and fertility, but whose creative power can trigger upheavals, causing events such as storms and floods.
Midnight, I laid myself to sleep and I tried to forget about my loneliness and my worry. They say I have it all, but I'm just caught in a net of unsatisfied desire. There's an aching in my soul that is driving me mad. I just want darkness to overcome me. Oh, let the waves of sleep carry me far away. Ananta, Sheshnaga. Ananta, Sheshnaga. But suddenly, without warning, I was floating through the night, leaving my body behind. I saw the universe below me, like a tiny mustard seed that I hardly could find. There was a billion more like that one. Each one was like a jewel upon the heads of a snake. With a billion tongues, he was singing, and I was wondering if I'm asleep or awake. Ananta, Sheshnaga. Ananta, Sheshnaga. An endless form of endless bliss. An endless form of endless bliss. The Supreme Lord appears like this. The Supreme Lord appears like this.
In the summer of 1956, Satyendra Bose gave a talk at the Visva Bharati University in the region of West Bengal in India. To an attentive audience, he spoke of his experience in Europe, his studies, his view of science and academic life in a liberated country, and his plans for the construction of a liberated thought that could emerge away from the control of scientifically dominant countries. The words he used were simple and direct, but full of his penetrating intelligence. The energy of his speech came from the depths of his heart, the same source from which sprung his surprising scientific hypotheses and his daring mathematics. Every word, every sentence, and every pause reflected truths coming from a mysterious realm only accessible to beings of special brilliance. On that day, in the morning sun of the Indian summer, under the shadow of centenary trees, a legendary being could be seen.